suppose you'd like to hear a story. This is one I wrote down just a few years ago. Charlie the Chimney Sweep. The story of Charlie the Chimney Sweep, a lamentable and original tale of reform concerning the Chimney Sweepers Act of 1834 and its sinister repercussions. By Lord Rivers. That's me, but you may call me Your Lordship. Charlie the Chimney Sweep. Just a few years ago, in the year 1834, far away in a town called London, there lived a young boy named Charlie. At 7 years old, Charlie was an accomplished chimney sweep. Like his father, and his father's father, and his father's father's father, he had apprenticed at the age of 4. Indeed, back then he could fit himself into even the tiniest of chimneys. When going to work, Charlie always wore his best suit, which was in fact his only suit, along with an old crumpled top hat, which he found in the street one day. His clothes were all tarnished with ashes and soot, but Charlie didn't mind at all. He was a working lad. Charlie lived in a lovely tenement with all his friends. The tenement was a tall grey building on a narrow grey street. Inside, there were 100 or so dark little grey rooms. Their dark little grey room was quite spacious and had 2 big windows that looked out onto the sturdy grey brick wall of the tenement next door. In the daytime, they all sat down on the floor or on a few nearly broken crates. At night, they all went to sleep on some big soft bags of soot. It was all splendid, and it was all that Charlie knew. It was very nice for Charlie to live right next to all his loved ones, and what a treat it was to have so many neighbors. And that's their lovely spacious tenement. Charlie and his friends worked every day so they could earn some pocket money for rent and plus a little extra for some food. Once they were finished working, they would go outside to get something to eat. There were lots of people along the side of the road with peculiar little stalls selling all kinds of things. They had cakes, pies, ham, fish, pickles, and even Charlie's favorite, jellied eels. The eels were served cold, often alongside a big hot potato. Some people thought jellied eels were slimy and putrid, but Charlie thought they were brilliant. They would take their eels and their potatoes and hike to one of the royal parks and sit down for a feast. And there's a potato seller there. Charlie and his friends worked very hard for their pocket money. They would do all kinds of different jobs, but most of all they liked to sweep out chimneys. People all over London needed their chimneys swept out. You see, when you light your fireplace or furnace, all the smoke is carried out of the house through the chimney. The smoke rises up the chimney, but often leaves a big trail of soot behind. After you burn a great deal of wood or coal, and coal is particularly dirty, your chimney will become so dirty with soot that the smoke may not come out of the chimney, and it will come straight into your sitting room. A smoke-filled room would be very bad and most unseemly, and everyone would be very cross. And there's a gentleman sitting by his fire, happily burning some Cardiff coal. The soot in a dirty chimney could become so thick that it would catch on fire. Then your whole house could burn down. To keep everything from going up in flames, chimneys needed to be swept out regularly. Though there were many brushes to get up in the particularly narrow chimneys, no one could get them quite as clean as Charlie and his friends. Some foolish people forgot to have their chimneys swept out regularly and only called Charlie once the chimney was already on fire. He would have to work extra hard to put out the fire and then get everything cleaned up without getting burned or getting stuck or getting soot everywhere. There's one of Charlie's older friends that can't quite fit in the chimney anymore, so has to use one of those long brushes. Now, while other children stayed at home or played in the streets or went to school, Charlie and his friends worked. Just before the sun came up, Charlie and his friends would wake up to get ready for their day of sweeping. There was little money for breakfast, so most days they would grab their brooms and ropes straight away and go out to look for some people who needed their chimneys swept out. Once Charlie was in the middle of the busy street, he would cry out, "Chimney sweep!" He would shout left and then right for all to hear. Then someone would call Charlie over and he and his friends would get to work. There was no time for amusement. Now here's some children haughtily scorning work and kicking a teapot around for fun. Terrible. To get started, Charlie would go into the fireplace, which had hopefully cooled down a bit since its last fire, and begin to climb up. He would use a brush to get most of the soot, and for harder bits, a scraper. It was great fun. Yes, some people used a great long wire brush and big machines, but you couldn't truly call your chimney clean if someone didn't climb up inside it to give it a good scrub. All the heavy black soot from the fireplace would fall on Charlie and thence down the chimney. Sometimes it made him cough, but he always stopped coughing eventually. No matter how much soot there was, Charlie and his friends always carried on with their work as upstanding children should. Yes, and here's one of Charlie's smaller friends. He can get in the very, very narrow chimneys. Yes. Next, they would spend some time happily sweeping out the fireplace and making sure none of the soot carried into the house, because that would make people very cross. They would sweep it all up and put it in a bag for later. A huge bag of soot sometimes fetched a tidy sum at the market. When they were done, they would quite often get a bright, shiny new penny to share. Charlie would put the shiny penny in his pocket, and they would go to the next house. After a few days of working for just 12 hours or so, they would have quite a bit of money. Sometimes, after a very long day, they would earn more than a shilling. That was quite a lot. And here's some different brushes that they used. Yes, why would you collect jacks or hoops or tin soldiers when you could have a good set of brushes? One day, a constable in a tall black hat stopped Charlie in the street and said that Charlie and his friends must go home straight away. The constable, the magistrate, and his friends in Parliament, who were very cross, said that sweeping was dangerous for some reason. Clearly, they wanted to stop children from earning any money. People around town said the members of Parliament were a greedy and lamentable sort. Perhaps they were up to something. Perhaps they wanted to take Charlie's pence. Perhaps they wanted to keep all the jellied eels for themselves, and perhaps the potatoes too. There's the local magistrate and his friend the constable plotting to stop Charlie. Indeed, it was all quite true. All the honourable members of Parliament had agreed that no children should sweep chimneys. So with the permission of old King William, Parliament passed the Lamentable Chimney Sweepers Act of 1834, and it came to pass that neither Charlie nor his friends could sweep out chimneys any more. They could not sweep chimneys nor could they earn pennies or shillings, nor could they eat jellied eels, because there was no money at all. They might soon have to sleep on the streets, because they could not even afford to stay in their tenement together. Tough times were ahead. And there's King William IV, King of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland, a loathsome enemy of juvenile enterprise. Over in Parliament they were all quite happy with their new act. They said it would fix a limit to great oppression and cruelty. What rubbish! Chimneys would go unswept and catch fire. Hundreds of boys like Charlie would be out of work. The act said that if you wanted to be a proper sweep, you had to wear a funny hat with a big brass badge, and that you had to be more than 14 years old. Charlie and his friends were very sad. How could they wait 6 years to begin working again? Why must they wait so long? What was so dangerous? Why must they wear a funny hat? Charlie and his friends, and all their customers with dirty chimneys, were all quite distressed. There's the Houses of Parliament, wherein are contained some very cross people. The Act also said that if children tried to unlawfully sweep, the constable would catch them and bring them before the magistrate and maybe even throw them into jail. So Charlie and his friends took the last of their money and got some cold jellied eels and some hot potatoes and went down to the park to think it over. They found a prodigious log, sat down and pondered. What were they to do? They had never worked in factories or mills. They had never farmed or tended to animals. Their hands were already far too large to make watch chains or matches. They had never tried rat catching, but that didn't sound like a very capital idea at all. Where were they to go? There's a rat catcher in the London sewer. But fear not. Charlie and his friends decided to stop sweeping chimneys, and they all went to work underground in the lead mine. They got new clothes and new tools, and they didn't have to work in the hot sun. Climbing through the mine was quite a lot like climbing through chimneys. And although they had a hard time remembering things, and although some of their hair fell out, they didn't have to leave their tenement, nor did they have to stop eating eels, nor did they ever stop being friends. Huzzay! The end. Charlie the Chimney Sweep is to be found at the Amazon booksellers, which will throw you into the path of other historical stories soon to be published. All right, go away.